What up, everybody? Today is another episode of Comically Boston, episode 150. I've done 150 of these. It's crazy. But today we're talking about X-Men 97, episode 9. Tolerance is Extinction, part 2 of 3 parts, right? So this is the penultimate episode, the one right before the finale. So this is the episode where, you know, if some crazy shit's gonna happen in the finale, this is where it starts, you know what I mean? And technically this is the middle of a 3 arc, right? If part 1 was the start of it, this is like the middle chunk, right? The juicy bits, and then the last episode is just gonna be all the craziness and wrapping the whole thing up and seeing where we end up after this whole thing. But this is a chunky freaking episode. After the end of the last one, the last episode ended with Charles crashing into the mansion, and then to me, my X-Men, you know, so, you know, calls the team to the mansion, but the mansion's destroyed. So we start this episode with Charles waking up in bed. Then it cuts to Magneto kind of destroying the planet. I don't know. We kind of saw him do some crazy shit last episode, but we'll talk about, you know, the consequences of his actions from last episode a little bit later this episode. But Magneto is powerful, man, and he is not captured anymore, and he's not brainwashed, but he has had enough of all of the bull crap and all of the people, and he is ready, and he has declared war against the entire planet, and it's mutants or them. Pick one, right? Like, and he is Team Mutant, and he's like, listen, you can be on that other side, but you're gonna have to go up against me. And Magneto is just so badass this entire series. It's just crazy how much has been going on. But we cut from Magneto terraforming, you know, making this new, I don't know what we should call it, new planet, new islands, new asteroid. You know, he's pretty much ripped up the planet and made an asteroid with his powers that's now going to be the new Genosha. But we also then cut from Magneto to Bastion crying, carrying his mother through a crowd of Sentinel Primes. Then we cut to Jubilee and Roberto. They're cornered by a bunch of civilians, you know, not liking mutants. And then we get to see Storm and Forge is there to help Jubilee. They're up on top of the building. Jubilee hugs her. She's like, Storm, oh my god, you're back. Then we cut back to the mansion, and Jean, Charles, and Scott are having a conversation with Charles and telling him, hey, what the fuck, man? Like, what's with the whole giving Magneto the school and not us? And Charles is like, you know what, I wanted you guys to be free. I didn't want you guys to be here forever. You guys were my first students. All you've known is this, and I wanted you to experience life and have the child and be gone. And Scott's like, what the fuck? Don't you know this is my only life? This is the only thing I know. This is all we're gonna be able to have. Even if we were free, Nathan would still have had this virus and would have still had to see Sinister and would have still had to then be called in because Magneto's going crazy, right? So he's like, this is what I'm doing. Like, I'm the leader. Like, you should have left it to me. So Charles is like, you know, not really apologetic, but like, you know, I've realized something, Scott, and I'm back here as well, and offers him his hand, and Scott walks right by that hand. So I'm like, ooh, is this turning Scott into, like, you know, maybe we're gonna get maybe a darker twist, maybe get a darker side of Cyclops? I don't know. This whole series Cyclops has been pretty freaking cool. Rogue having a nightmare. She's dreaming of Gambit. She like wakes up, Remy, oh, he's dead. You know, like, you know, hoping he was alive, but he's not. So it looks like Gambit's really gone. Poor Remy. But Nightcrawler is there to comfort Rogue in her distress and from her nightmare, and, you know, is holding her, and she kind of like cries for a second. Then we cut to Aurora, Monroe, Forge, Jubilee, and Roberto all knocking on the door. The door falls over, and Forge is like, hey, it looks like we missed the shindig. Jean sees Aurora, and they hug and fly and do this whole cute little thing, and she's like, Roro, you're back. And then Forge catches up with Beast. Forge tells him, hey, I got this leg here that's not, you know, supposed to be out of power because of what Magneto did last episode, but he goes, it's one of the first modifications I did on it. And Beast's like, wow, how did you do that? And he goes, I thought about it. And it's like, what? You didn't even explain it. You just went, oh, I'm smart. You know, I'm smarter than you, Beastie Boy, you furry bastard. But you could see that the mansion is just in straight ruin. But then the team has to catch up on what Magneto did. And thousands are dead. The planet is seemingly sent back hundreds of years. All the electromagnetic fields around the planet are all just disrupted. And it's looking like the world's about to end in 12 hours. So let's get to work, team. Storm was like, we do it how we always done it, as a family. Then we cut to Rogue in Gambit's trench coat talking to Charles outside. And, you know, and just a cool look to see Rogue in his trench coat, you know, mourning him, but also kind of like still the Rogue we know, because Charles, walks. Charles rolls out and he's like, he should have been buried here. He was an X-Men through and through, you know, like, and he hasn't been around, so he doesn't know shit about what's been going on. And Rogue snaps back at him, was like, he was the most Cajun man I ever met, and life's all about the pieces you leave behind and stuff like that. It's a beautiful writing, beautiful scene, you know, heartbreaking that Gambit's not there. Then Magneto pulls up, you know, pretty much like how a car would pull up on the side of the curb, 2 beats. What's up, baby? You guys rolling with me? You know, that type of deal. But he pulls up with an asteroid in the sky and just, like, comes down and is like, my X-Men, choose, motherfucker. Like, oh, like, it's wild. But I have this little clip here of Magneto told the team, you know, him and Charles were talking. He told off Charles, was like, listen, I was holding little Leech right when we thought Magneto died. He goes, I told this young boy and looked into his eyes not to fear, and then watched as he got vaporized in front of me, like an inch away. So like he now has that image burned into Magneto's head of poor Leech just getting melted away in his hands. Why Magneto didn't get melted away, I don't know, but it's just sad that now we know confirmed that Leech is gone. But this is the clip of Rogue taking Magneto up on his offer.
In Genosha, I made a choice to lead our kind to a new age. I stand by that choice.
Rogue, do not turn your back on family.
You were gone, gal. None of you were there the day Genosha fell. Who dies next, Professor? Jean? Been there, done that. Who knows where Bishop is? And hell, Morph was barely on the team 30 minutes before we tossed them to the wolves. Jubilee, Roberto, I will not see any more mutants die.
Oof, she's right though. She says some powerful things there. And Storm's like, Rogue, do not turn your back on family. She goes, you've been gone, gal. None of you were there in Genosha. And I had to think about it. I was like, damn, was no one really there? It was really just Magneto, Rogue, and who else? I you know, it was just a couple episodes ago, but I forgot like who was actually present. And I guess it was just Gambit, Rogue, Magneto, Leech, Emma Frost, Madeline, you know, so I think, but I wanted to say that there was other people there. Nightcrawler was there, you know, so almost all of them weren't there, though. You know, Charles most definitely wasn't. But she hands the Gambit's trench coat to Charles, pretty much like, I'm leaving this X-Men shit behind and I'm choosing mutants. And she's like, if it's up to me, no mutants will ever have to die again. And she chooses Team Magneto. What I thought was even more heartbreaking was poor Jubilee. Sunspot Roberto goes, why would I stay? My mother, my only family I've actually had, because he's not really an X-Men yet. Like, he hasn't been convinced to be an X-Men. He doesn't have Charles's dream in his head. He's still fairly new. I'm still kind of like, where the hell did he get this X-Men suit in the last minute? Maybe they just tossed it to him like, hey, put that on. But we get to see him actually powered up, which is kind of cool. But he's like, what do I have left? My mother doesn't turn my back on me, turned me over to the Sentinel Primes. That's my own family, you know, like blood family. So like, he clearly has got trust issues. Can't necessarily trust this new family that he just found. Poor Jubilee's like, well, what do you have if you stay? You have me. And he kind of just leaves with Magneto. So it's the three of them. The rest of the team stays with the team. But poor Jubilee, man. I felt for Jubilee. She was so sad. Oh, so sad. But then we get Cable, right, from this clip that we saw last week from the little teaser clip that they released beforehand. This actually came in this episode. But Scott gets to finally talk to Cable, and he's like, you know, having a little father-son with him. He goes, yeah, don't worry, just hitching a ride with you to Asteroid M. And he's like, you know, if it was up to me, I would have me, you, and Jean on an island somewhere. And he was like, yeah, but she's not my mother. And he's like, yeah, well, they're both two of the most powerful women I've ever met in my life. And then he kind of grabs his shoulder and he goes, but son, and he goes, let me guess, be careful. And he goes, nah, give him hell. And then he goes, oh, I almost forgot. Tosses him his suit. And then we get the...
Almost forgot.
Oh, am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
Then we get the "What'd you expect?" black leather clip, which is obviously a nod to James Marsden. What'd you expect? Yellow spandex from X-Men 1. You know, so it just, you know, putting them in their place. Like that back then, they were trying to be edgy and they were trying to distance themselves from the comics. But now we're in a day and age in the 2020s, 2024, where we're able to have fully costumed up, colorful characters. Wolverine is going to be live action with his yellow and blue suit, and it's going to be awesome, and everyone's going to friggin' love it. I can't wait. But I just thought it was really touching. He goes, give him hell, son, and he kind of like smiles, like, but he's also this old man, right? Like, because he got white hair and he's time traveling and shit, so it's like he's trying to talk to his son like a child, but he's also this grown-ass man. You know, he's bigger than him. He like holds his arm like, yeah, son, you know, like. But then we get Charles talking to President Kelly, and while he talks to President Kelly, we get this classic suit up scene. You know, like not their new suits, right? Because a lot of shit's been destroyed. So now they're on Mir Island, which I believe is in Switzerland. You know, their backup facility, catching up on, you know, some gear and stuff like that. So it's a lot of the OG suits and stuff. But let's play this clip.
In under an hour, civilization as we know it ends. Much like in the past. My X-Men and I are your best hope to avoid that future.
If you're wrong, Xavier, my hand will be forced.
We have been here before, President Kelly. If you don't trust me, trust my X-Men.
Right, so if you don't trust me, trust the X-Men. And we get to see Storm's gets her black suit up with the team. We get to see Jean's old style suit, like Miss Marvel, I believe is what she originally went by, but now clearly there's a new Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel and whole shit like that. She's Jean Grey, Phoenix, right? So she's got her old suit on. Scott's old suit where he like brings down the visor and it lights up. Just great shot. We get to see Wolverine gets his classic brown and yellow suit. Now for me, I know that that's the comic book, you know, accurate in, you know, like his OG colors. But to me, it's the blue and yellow. You know, like I'm here for the blue and yellow. I was even here for the black leather. But the brown, I don't know if it's I just don't like brown and yellow as a color combo, or even just the color brown in general, you know, like I'm not into it unless it's like a wood grain. You know, like I love a wood grain, but I don't like just, you know, you're never going to see me just wearing a brown t-shirt or brown pants, right? Like what am I, Deadpool? He brought the brown pants, right? Like no. But just seeing the whole team in these outfits, you know, and poor Jubilee burned Roberto's card. Oh, so she's hurt. She's really had her first fight with him. Thinks they're fully broken up in her mind. She's pissed. Morph's got like big shoulder pads on, kind of classic outfit. You see Cable got his full suit on that his papa gave him, Forge with his metal leg, and he's got three big guns. Nightcrawler in the back there, right? So it's just kind of really cool to see this team go through different phases, right? Nightcrawler's praying, and he's got to talk to President Kelly and try and get him to be on their side instead of being on Team Human side, and realize that the X-Men are on their side. But Scott and Jean have to split up because they team up. Their teams are what, blue team, gold team. So Scott's on one and Jean's on the other. So this team has to split up. They work better when they're all together, but they're now going to have two smaller teams. You know, one's going to an island, one's going to space. So, you know, it's going to be tough. But this little clip here was heartbreaking to me. So heartbreaking to me that they have to like split up, and that little like lingering on their hands just slowly slipping away is like, no, how can they do this? No, I know something bad is gonna happen. And you know, we'll talk more about what happens to Jean when they split up, you know, potentially what happens at the end of this episode. But to me, I'm like, man, what the fuck? Like, something's gotta happen here. And either Jean and Scott are never going to talk again. Maybe it's going to be Phoenix and Scott talk again. But maybe this is the last we see of them, like, together. Maybe Scott ends up mind changing a little bit. You know, maybe he ends up with Madeline. Maybe he ends up with Emma Frost. Maybe he just ends up on Magneto's side and Jean can't forgive him. Maybe we end up shipping Jean in Storm. We'll talk about that more in a second. So Jean and Scott split up, and then we get a shot of Bastion powering up a bunch of Sentinels, just a lot of them, and he's, you know, tapped into all the machinery, so like they're all basically forms and extensions of him, which, you know, a lot of people were saying, is Bastion doing it for you as a villain? And I didn't really care for him in previous episodes. You know, I was like, damn, they got Theo James to voice his character, like, what's the big deal with him? But finally seeing him to get to use his powers and see how powerful he is, he's a pretty solid villain. You know, he's pretty tough to beat, especially when he's got Mr. Sinister on his side and Magneto not necessarily working with him, but not working against him either. Not, you know, like Magneto's like, oh, I'm just gonna destroy the entire planet and build my own. Okay, Magneto, fuck. We thought you were a good guy a minute ago. But Storm and Jean get a little catch-up moment, and we get this clip here that I'll play, and it's really sweet to hear Jean and Storm talk to each other like this, and clearly Jean missed Storm a lot and was thinking about Storm losing her powers, and is very glad that Storm has her powers back. But let's play the clip.
I thought of you while away, of when my sister faced her darkness and emerged stronger. A survivor, a phoenix. All this change, it's all the same. Let us do what we do. Believe, not in a dream or our gifts, but in each other.
Make them mind your weather, sister.
And them weather your mind.
Ooh, that's a great line, right? And in Storm's voice just gives me chills to hear it. But she's like, you know, why? Let us be what we are. You go to the grounds. I'm gonna take care of these Sentinels in the sky with Forge, and we'll meet up later. And she's like, let them mind your weather, sister, and make them weather your mind, right? Like, whoever wrote that, the writer's room must have been like, I fucking killed it, you know, right? Like, just, I nailed it. Such a good line. Like, let's just hear that line one more time.
Believe, not in a dream or our gifts, but in each other.
Make them mind your weather, sister.
And them weather your mind.
She goes, believe, not in them, but in us. Not in our powers, but in us. Oh, such a great line. And now I'm just like, well, I love Storm and Jean now. I'm like, fuck, ship them. But look how big a woman, right? Like, they're standing on the same ground, right? So Jean's this small, short little ginger, big long hair, and even though her hair is long, Jean. But then you look at Storm, there's just, that's a woman, right? Big woman, big hair, powerful voice, even more powerful powers, right? Jean obviously is very powerful too, but both Omega level threats, now I'm shipping them hard. I want them together. Fuck Scott, fuck fucking Madeline. I'm shipping these two lesbos, technically Storms with Forge still. But hey, I mean, little threesome, yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm sure Forge would be too. You know, he's probably like, give me back my leg. So Storm tells him to split, and Jean takes Gold Team to the ground, and Storm and Forge take on the people up in the air. And it's just great to see Storm have her powers back. She summons like a ginormous tornado. Just cool as fuck. So Gold Team lands on the ground, a volcano where Bastion has set up his camp, and Gold Team is Cable, Beast, Jean, and Morph on the ground, and then Storm and Forge up in the air. But we get this great, Morph has been morphing into all of our favorite cameos the whole season, so this episode's not different at all. And we get Morph Smash clip. Let's play this. just so great to see Hulk, right? But it's not Hulk because it's Morph. So we don't get Hulk smash, we get Morph smash. And then a little assistance from Jean. Jean's tossing the Hulk around, he's spinning, he punches a head off a Sentinel. The Sentinel head goes into a little Easter egg into a sign that says DeMaio's. That's showrunner Bo DeMaio, right? Little Easter egg for him. But after having Cap earlier in the season, Spider-Man last episode, now Hulk this episode, right? I think officially my big three, my favorite three characters ever from when I was a kid, literally on to today, is probably Spider-Man, Hulk, Wolverine in no particular order, right? So it's just great that we get, you know, these three iconic characters all in this show, right? Not all at the same time, but all in this show, right? So if you want to see your favorite characters, there's a chance that they might be coming, you know, whether they're Morph or not. Like, Cap was in this show, and Cap was real, right? Like, Rogue fucking, he's still looking for his shield in that mountain, right? Like, he's still there looking. So then we see them fighting. Beast friggin' takes the Sentinel's hand, slaps him with it, right? We never really see what happens to Hulk or where he goes, but we catch up with Morph a little bit later. But Jean fights Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister hits Cable with a blast, so Cable ends up like over there. But Jean fighting Sinister is so badass. The animation looks great. I have a clip right here we're gonna play. But like, just how good this animation is, watching Mr. Sinister's powers, and like, they wouldn't have been able to do this as well as they can in animation in live action. They just wouldn't have been able to do this fight scene at all, at least not as good. But like, he's darkness, he's Mr. Sinister, so he's like coming out of shadows, and like you can see how his power works. And I, like, up until this point, I didn't really care for Sinister. I'm like, damn, Mr. Sinister's kind of badass. But let's see what Jean does to his ass. Cable kind of gets blasted, and she goes, Cable, and then she goes on one-on-one with Sinister. And Sinister kind of has some badass moves, but in the end, Jean fucking pulls a strike with his ass, and then throws all the bowling balls. The arcade machine just tosses everything at his fucking ass. Everything in the bowling alley just gets yeeted at him. But I thought it was super interesting also that he goes, I will tell you if you ask nicely when I switched you and Jean and Madeline. Like, when I switched you to clone you, right? So that's been a kind of a thing all season. So maybe next episode we'll finally get that answer and when, or maybe we won't, because Jean goes, it doesn't matter, rips off the ceiling of the building so Light gets in there, because his powers came from the shadows like we've seen in that clip, and Light comes in, she goes, Madeline fights with me today, pulls a strike with his ass. So like, just so fucking dope, really. Like, I can't get over some of the stuff is really, really great. Then we get Blue Team lands in space. Blue Team's Wolverine, Scott, Charles, Jubilee, Nightcrawler, and they land their jet, and then Rogue and Sunspot go, do we knock? And they like look in the jet, they've all teleported inside. So they teleport right up to Magneto. Magneto's made a throne out of Sentinel stuff, and he's sitting there and he goes, so your choice has been made. And you just get Wolverine immediately ready to charge in his old brown and yellow suit, and he goes, oh good, we're skipping the blabber, and he just runs and like he rolls, and like the animation looks really, really freaking great, especially for something that like is drawn, like not necessarily like the 3D, you know. Can't get over how good that animation looks. It just looks great. But as he's about to like charge and stab Magneto, Rogue comes out of nowhere and pins him down and goes, oh no, time out, sugar, you playing to kill, right? And you're like, damn right he is. I think that's why I love Wolverine and Deadpool so much, is because you never know if they're gonna actually pop off and just kill the motherfucker, right? Like, they're definitely not good guys per se. But then after Rogue pins down Wolverine, the rest of the team starts to attack Magneto. Then we get to see Jubilee and Sunspot kind of have their first fight, and Sunspot hits Jubilee and goes, oh, sorry, Jubes, I didn't mean, like, and then she starts throwing back at him, and then they start fighting, throwing fireworks and fire at each other, right? Like, it's just funny to see them, like, having their first fight, but not, like, in a relationship, having a power versus power fight. And then we get Charles finally starts to talk to Magneto and try and get through to him, and he's like, hey Magnus, blah blah blah, and he's like, you know, old friend, I've wanted to tell you this for a long time. Shut up, right? Like, oh, he's just so pissed off at Charles. But let's play this clip of hearing their conversation and what Magneto says to him.
For all your talk of ruling the world, It is the world that rules you that has made the bitter man before me.
Oh, how I've waited to say these 2 words to you, old friend.
Nuh-uh. Someone changed the clip at the end, so instead of shut up, it's nuh-uh. But here's the real,
Shut up.
He goes, shut up, right? Like, he leans in, he's so angry about it. I didn't even realize that clip at the end says, nuh-uh, instead of shut up. I love the internet so much. Right, so then after he says shut up to him, we get to see Wolverine and Rogue still fighting, but they just kind of like, you see Scott like laser beaming around, and then all of a sudden, Rogue and Wolverine just fly across screen, and you see like, he's like shooting, and then just kind of like stops, watches them go by, and then like goes back to shooting, and you're like, oh fuck, they just included them just whipping past across screen for no reason? So Charles, with his mouth covered, goes, you know, and uses his brain power. Cyclops, right? Doesn't call him Scott, because now we're in the battle, and he's using his X-Men name, and he's got his full suit on and shit, so he's Cyclops, his helmet, and he's like, we need to hijack it to repair the Earth, his powers. And Gold Team must neutralize Bastion, right? So this Blue Team has to get Magneto and has to fix the Earth, and Gold Team has to neutralize Bastion. We have to trust them to do that. So Storm is you know, going, and Forge, fucking, his ship gets hit. Storm's trying to save Forge's ship, then Storm gets hit. So Storm goes down and Forge is crashing, right? So that's the last we see of them. Then we cut to Cable getting controlled by Sinister, right? Like, that is so nuts, like, that he's like not able to like control himself right now, you know what I mean? Like, he's getting, you know, I think Sinister says something along the lines of, oh, my little ace in the hole, you know, my little trick up my sleeve type of deal. And so Cable is attacking Jean, and, you know, Jean's like, come on, don't do this. And he's like, my real mother was a world-class telekinetic just like you. Tends not to skip a generation. And he fucking blasts this crazy powerful thing, and she's like defending it, and she's like fine-ish, but she calls out to Scott. So then Scott from space sees what is happening, sees Cable, his son, attacking his like love of his life, Jean, and he's like, no, and then she's like, Scott, I love you, and then just kind of like, you see this clip of Jean in Scott's visor, and it's just, oh, what a great shot. And then he like is back in space like, no, Jean, no, what happened? No, not my son, what's happening to him? Why is he controlled? Like, right? So it's nuts to see that, like, how then Mr. Sinister is controlling Cable in this whole thing. We cut back to Magneto and back into space, and Wolverine jumps and grabs Magneto's helmet, and Magneto pushes him back, controlling the metal in him, but Charles gets his chance to control him. We see Charles finally get to control Magneto and seeing like what he's doing to him, and it's like, damn, what is Charles doing? This is some powerful dark shit right now. But let's play this clip.
Jean, Nathan.
You've left me no choice, Magnus.
I'm sorry, sir. Gold Team still needs more time.
We see Charles finally get a hold of Magneto, and he starts doing something to him because Magneto's in a ton of pain, and we see this shot from above of his like this blue like lightning flying through his like body. So Charles is doing something to cause him great pain, and even like it shocked kind of Cyclops. He steps back and he blasts Charles and goes, "I'm sorry, sir. The Gold Team needs more time on the ground, right? So you can't start doing this shit with Magneto because we need to get the Gold Team is finish their side of things." Oh, so like it's just, oof, it's terrible to see this. But then Magneto fucking, right, because he had to stop Charles. Now Magneto is not going to waste his second chance here, and you know, starts really powering up and throws everyone up against the wall and takes the helmet that Wolverine took off his head and puts it on Charles and starts crushing Charles's head. And then we have another clip here of that, and we see this is like the end of the episode. So, you know, bear with me here because we're going to recap a little bit of what's happening and predictions for next week. But this is the last clip of what happens at the end of this episode as Magneto puts the helmet on Charles. And so let's play this clip.
You are a traitor to your race.
Been in a lot of wars, bub. The brave always die first.
Logan, finally, this feud is over.
No! Magnus! For the love of God, don't do this!
Holy shit, right? And then they cut to credits on that. So I'm sitting there, right? Wolverine's one of my favorites. I'm like, nah, he'll be all right. Like, what? Are you shitting me? Right? So obviously he's got the healing factor. So we don't know even if he does rip out the adamantium out of his entire body, you know, rip it right off his skeleton. We don't know if that will kill him entirely, or maybe he'll just go back to bone claws or whatever, which I kind of hated in the first place. But this is like ripped right out of the comic books, like damn near frame for frame. You know, maybe just a little less hairy and a little bit less rippling muscle. It's damn near side by side ripped right out the comic book. But just that final shot of Wolverine screaming, writhing in pain, bleeding, as just this metal is just pouring out of him, right? But you got to think about it from Magneto's perspective too. Like Magneto and Wolverine like have this feud going back, and he's like, so he stabs him. You see the blood on Wolverine's claws. I've been in a lot of wars, bub, and the brave always die first. And he goes, Logan, finally this feud is over. Oh, right, like what a crazy ending to this, right? So now we're picking up with, is Wolverine alive at the start of the next episode? So just to recap what's going on, where are X-Men right now? Bishop, MIA. Madeline, MIA. Emma Frost, MIA. So maybe we'll see them. Morph is with Bastion, was posing as Sinister. Bastion saw right through Morph posing as Sinister. He was like, Sinister doesn't care about anybody. You came in way too nice, mutant. You know, but Bastion doesn't immediately kill Morph. So Morph's still not in a good situation. He's in the chamber with Bastion. Storm got blasted out of the air trying to save Forge. So Storm's drowning, Forge crashing, right? So just insane that like most of these people, we don't know if they're alive, dead, what's going on with them. Beast, I think the last we saw of him, he was slapping Sentinels with their own hands. Cable possibly killing Jean. Jean maybe becoming the Phoenix and having to then kill Cable or something in return. Sinister's controlling Cable, so the real Sinister's still out there as well. Scott, Nightcrawler, Rogue, Roberto, Jubilee, Charles are all watching Magneto murder Logan, right? Like, whatever's happening to poor Wolverine, like, what a crazy episode. Comment below, what do you think of this X-Men 97 series? What are your predictions going into part 3 of the finale next week? And I've just had a really great time talking about this show, you know, making these videos, talking with some of the people that have commented or reached out and talked to me about X-Men 97. Just really sparked a fire in me of X-Men love that I haven't had since I was really young. In those X-Men movies when I was a kid, I loved, but still, they only really made me love Magneto, Charles, Wolverine, of course, you know, maybe a few others. Nightcrawler I really dug, but like I was never really a fan of the team and everyone. Now I'm a fan of Jubilee, you know what I mean? Like, now I'm a fan of Roberto, of Gambit, of Storm, you know, like, and I was always a Halle Berry person, but now I'm fucking with Aurora Monroe, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just, oh, it's Halle Berry, it's dope, I like Storm. No, like, the characters have really won me over. The voice acting, Bo DeMayo, I don't care why you got fired. At this point, you knew these characters and you knew what the fuck you were doing. Whether it's the costumes, the animation, the story, it's all been fucking phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about it. Comment below your score for this episode or this series. You know, what do you think it ranks at? For me, I'm saying high 90s. For an overall score for like the whole show. Mid to high 90s for the entire show. This episode for me really blew it out of the water, and that final closing scene is fucking nuts. But thank you guys for watching. My name is Big Kim. I'm sorry this is a lengthy episode, but they packed a lot into this episode, so we had to talk about all of it. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. My name is Big Kim. My other social media links are in the description below. Please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Hit that bell so you don't miss next week's final episode breakdown of the finale of Tolerance's Extinction Part 3. Oof, can't wait to catch up with y'all next week. Go Storm, heed my commands. And that one-liner of friggin' Storm and Jean, I'm really shipping them hard. But I'll talk to you beautiful people in the next episode. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.